Well, hello and welcome. Very happy to be talking to you.
Great to be on.
Is-
Ready to chat about some Sharia.
Well, first of all, I think it's confusing for a lot of our people listening. We're in North Carolina. We've heard about some things. I just in the intro reviewed some problems that we've had, historical problems with Sharia law in our schools, specific madrasas funded by the taxpayers, mind you, um, terrorist attacks, etc. But when we look at Sharia law, what is it and what is it about Sharia law that's incompatible with the United States?
Wow, that's a big question,
It's big, yeah.
but I think I can boil it down for your viewers. First of all, you got to start with what's the stated purpose of Islam. So, what do they teach at the highest schools of Islamic jurisprudence, like Al Azhar, and what do they teach 6 and 8 year old children in Islamic schools in Chapel Hill, in where I live, Dallas, in Phoenix, in Boston? Well, they teach the purpose of Islam is to wage war against non-Muslims until Allah's law, Sharia, is imposed on the earth. That's it. So that's the purpose of Islam. So the purpose of Islam is to wage war in order to impose Sharia. It's not to convert everybody. It's not to kill everybody. It's to ensure the entire earth is under the control of Allah's law, Sharia. And so Sharia comes from the Quran and what's called the Sunnah, or the example of the prophet, their prophet, Muhammad. And a couple things I have learned over the years is really important for people to understand to make it make sense. First of all, I'll start with the example of the Prophet Muhammad, because if we just go to the most authoritative sources in Islam, Muhammad himself said, I've been commanded to wage war against them, the non-Muslims, till they testify there's no God but Allah and Muhammad's a messenger of Allah. So Muhammad said that. Muhammad beheaded up to 900 Jews after the Battle of the Trench. Muhammad married a 6-year-old and consummated the relationship when she was 9. Muhammad tortured and authorized torture. Muhammad authorized and condoned the taking of sex slaves and the raping of women, not to mention he, had sex with a 9-year-old child. So all of this behavior is mainstream. It's normative and universally taught Islam. And so the way I approach this is if you just start with that, he's the perfect example. Then a lot of the legal, very important stuff like abrogation, what comes chronologically later in the Quran overrules what comes earlier. The fact that the tafsir legally defines every verse in the Quran. So there's no such thing as you reading a verse and me reading a verse if we happen to be both Muslim, and you saying, well, this means this to me. And I'm saying, today, Sloan, this means this to me. Those are capital crimes in Islam.
Okay. So in Judaism, we're famous for having rabbis that can give you different interpretations on the 633 halakha, which is Jewish law.
Right.
You can't do that in Islam.
No, and this is the point. You've just nailed a very important point. I think when I teach classes on Sharia, especially day-long classes, then it's different. Then we go into all of this. But the important stuff, if you just think of what's the perfect example of a man, according to Islam, it's Muhammad. And to say Muhammad did something that was wrong is a capital crime in Islam. Mm-hmm. To say a verse in Islam means something that the tafsir says it does not mean is a capital crime. And so I want to make 2 points here. Number one, so for instance, when people say, well, what's the purpose of a mosque? The answer is, what did Muhammad use the first mosque for? And then there's your answer. What did he use it for? It's an outpost of the Islamic State. It's where Sharia is adjudicated. It's like an embassy. It's the forward operating base of the Islamic State. It's where they plan battles. It's where they train jihadis. It's where they store weapons. So what are the mosques in your neighborhood, in my neighborhood, in all over the United States? What are they? That's what they are. And to say that there's something other than that, again, is a capital crime in Islam. But here's the point. Under the law of apostasy, Muslims are obliged under capital punishment to only teach other Muslims about Islam what's actually Islam. But Sharia, and depending on what book you're looking at, in Reliance of the Traveler, which is what I use, the Umdat al-Salik, because it's the most widely published and distributed book of tabletop Islamic law in North America to the Muslim community. In Book R, Holding One's Tongue, it says that it's permissible to lie if the goal is permissible, and obligatory to lie if the goal is obligatory.
Well, right?
Advancing Islam is obligatory. So if you want to know why what our leaders say about Islam from their jihadi advisors, their suit-wearing jihadi advisors, is exactly opposite of what 10-year-old Muslim children learn about Islam in U.S. Islamic schools, there's your answer. So Sharia has, according to Islam, has always existed because it's from Allah. It is the law that's perfect, and it's perfect for every human for all time. That's their understanding. So I want to be very specific here. The soldiers from Al-Qaeda and ISIS, if you watch them when they talk about Sharia, when you watch them right before, when they make videos getting ready to go martyr themselves, kill themselves while killing non-Muslims, they're not frothing at the mouth and screaming. They are literally sitting calmly, quoting the Quran, quoting the Hadith, quoting the tafsir sometimes, quoting mainstream Islamic law to support what they're doing. And so the questions I ask at the beginning of my presentation these days are what I just said. Number one, what's the purpose of Islam? And then watch people stare at you. Well, it's to wage war against non-Muslims until the entire world's under Sharia. It's that simple. Can you name one national Islamic organization that's not hostile? Then I like to just sit and wait. And, there is none. And so these are clues. And if we just look at it from these, I think Islam's very simple, actually. The question is, how come in the last 25 years our leaders have told us it's very complicated, and only these suit-wearing jihadi scholars can explain it to us, which is why we lost not only in Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, parts of Africa, but why we're losing here in the United States and in my home state of Texas.
And the Muslim Brotherhood is very big. And it's something that, again, a lot of people don't understand. I think they're coming to understand it. I think what complicates the issue is that we've got people at the highest levels on both sides, but even our own, who are fraternizing very openly with Muslim Brotherhood associates and with Qatar, who's the main outpost for Muslim Brotherhood. And it is sending a double message. Like, on the one hand, Trump has signaled a willingness to begin to, put the Muslim Brotherhood on the FTO list and do that. On the other hand, you're seeing, them getting a welcome and doing business with people like Steve Witkoff and Kirshner. So there's a lot. I mean, what's happening with the Muslim Brotherhood here? Where are we going with this?
It's a great way to put the question, actually. Yeah. I give you credit for that. So here's, the Trump administration's foreign policy with regard to the Islamic world is incoherent. And I believe, based on my own experiences, it's incoherent because there's nobody inside the administration, nobody that understands the war. So you've got people in there saying, hey, we can get rich off Saudi Arabia.
Deal. It's all about getting a deal. Yeah.
Make deals with them. Well, I mean, they're building mansions in Saudi Arabia for Trump and his family. His son and his son-in-law are pocketing millions of dollars. And quite frankly, and that money is being made on the future deaths of Americans that will come. There's no bigger supporter today. It was Iran for a number of years. Prior to that, it was Saudi Arabia of the U.S. Islamic movement. Qatar is now it. But the four worst nations in the world leading the global Islamic movement: Iran, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey. Besides Iran, this administration is kissing the ass of the other three countries and inviting an Al-Qaeda terrorist into the White House who
he's a handsome guy.
Tortured and killed American soldiers and calling him a good guy. And here's the point on this. When you watch what Mr. Trump is doing, first of all, he's got Hamas, Muslim Brotherhood guys like Rabul Chowdhury, like Hamza Yusuf, like Randall Royer and others inside his administration that he put there. And so Amer Ghalib, he named ambassador to Kuwait, who's a jihadi from Michigan. I mean, it's just a complete catastrophic failure. Why? You have Jared Kushner publicly saying that anybody who criticizes Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and Qatar should just be quiet. We don't know what we're doing. Screw that guy. That guy's putting money in his pocket while Americans are being killed and while the enemy is being funded by Qatar and other nations like Iran here in the United States to kill us. And when that happens, there'll be blood on all their hands, on Don Jr.'s hands, on Jared's, and on President Trump's. He can't escape this. I mean, and I'll just give you a very personal example. When in 2025, when the original inauguration schedule came out, I saw it. It got leaked by the media. And I just put out a simple post like, oh, look, a Hezbollah guy has been invited to the Trump inauguration. So it's the same as the Clinton administration, same as Bush, same as Obama, same as Biden, and now it's Trump. Nothing has changed. And I got a call from someone who said, is this true? And I just said, well, when have I ever put something out that I couldn't back up? And they're like, all right, can you send a few bullet points? And I did. And that person called the chief of staff for the president, told them, provided the information, called me back and said, well, Susie Wiles just crapped her pants and has now given me another name to replace that guy with. And I said, well, first of all, before you give me the name, there is a 100% chance he's a bad guy. And why is that? Even though we'll make the argument, because it's true, Hezbollah is not part of the Muslim Brotherhood. Muslim Brotherhood is a Sunni Islamic group. But you don't get to be a Muslim at the presidential inauguration if you are not part of the Islamic movement in the United States. You're not hostile. I could go back and show you the lists of people let into the White House under the Bush administration, 2002. 100% at that time were all Muslim Brotherhood. It is a goat rope, and it's much worse today. The Trump administration is the worst administration in 30 years with regard to how penetrated they are and how many bad guys are providing direct influence into foreign policy. And it's evidenced by your question. The fact that we're doing deals with Qatar instead of killing their leaders and destroying any capability they have, and specifically financially seizing all their assets. They're waging war against us. And they're using these thousands of proxies in the United States that exist to wage war against us while subverting, non-Muslim institutions like our colleges and others, high schools, business sectors. I mean, my goodness, the media, their information operations is impressive. It's worthy of a study and probably being taught in intelligence agencies if we actually had a functioning intelligence capability in the United States. So this is where we are. So the Muslim Brotherhood movement is the leading element of the U.S. Islamic movement. It's not the only one. We have a massive Iranian Hezbollah network. You've got the Deobandis here. You've got all kinds of entities. But two key points here. Number one, the Muslim Brotherhood leads the U.S. Islamic movement. And who controls the U.S. Muslim Brotherhood now? Turkey. Erdogan does. But Mr. Trump's on global television talking about how great Erdogan is. I mean, it's strategic incoherence, really, is all I can describe it as.
Well, that's horrifying. So let's break it down on a state level because I think people will understand this. This came across my transom, obviously yours as well, a couple of weeks ago. There, you vote Democrat, you get this. But what we're saying is you vote anybody and you get this because it's on both sides. So there's a jihadi or Islamic guy elected into office. We have it here in North Carolina. Y'all have it in Texas. You got it in Georgia. You have it all over the South, right? And he puts this law in the books. And let me show you a little bit about what this is. This is defining Islamophobia, okay, and sanctioning speech. So let's say, for the sake of argument, that somebody posts pictures on X of someone wearing a keffiyeh.
And just a random hypothetical?
Just someone out there in the ether.
Right.
John, we don't know who, but they post this picture and someone, maybe a police officer, finds it offensive to a particular religion because it would hurt their feelings and arrest them. Is that the kind of thing this law in Virginia would do in other places?
That's exactly what it would do. And in that post you just showed on the screen, I had in quotes the phrase deterrent punishments. And the reason I put that in there was because in 2005.
This one? Okay.
Yep. In 2005, the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Conference, now called the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, because apparently that sounds nicer. That's the largest voting bloc in the UN. It's every Muslim nation on the face of the earth, 56 members plus the 57th, which is something they call the State of Palestine. If you know your geography, it's also called Israel, but let's not let facts get in the way of a good story.
And I do, yes.
So 57 members, and every 3 years they come together and they make decisions that are binding on the global Muslim community legally. And they direct the global Islamic movement, which nobody in our White House even understands that, which is part of the problem. But I digress. So, number one, in 1993, they served to the UN the Cairo Declaration on Human Rights, which said we, the entire Muslim world at the head of state and king level, only understand the phrase of human rights through the lens of Sharia. The last article in the declaration literally says Islamic Sharia is the, quote, only source of reference for understanding these articles in this Declaration on Human Rights in Islam. So you need to understand that. Now you go to the OIC's 2005 10-year plan for the global Islamic movement, and they talk about getting Islamophobia understood at the international level and imposed criminally with, quote, deterrent punishments. And what we've seen in Europe, in numerous countries in Europe, is people arrested for social media posts, for saying things publicly, derogatory about Islam, which violates our natural.
Truthful about Islam or truthful about, and that's the thing, is like you don't have to denigrate. First of all, I don't denigrate anyone because of religion, etc. I've always said that Muslims are the first ones to suffer under Islam. And we've seen it, particularly women, particularly children. This isn't that, guys. This isn't I go out and denigrate someone, which is also, by the way, free speech in this country. But
it's also free speech.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what I'm getting at. So when you've got the Constitution, the first line, okay, First Amendment is DOA with this Sharia law. And that's the first thing that you see imposed. Do not think it's only in Europe. It's also here in the US as well. And it's these speech codes where we're not, I mean, we could be arrested right now for having this conversation. And we're talking about, you're just citing things that are in Islamic doctrine.
That's right.
And I'm just
teach to 10-year-olds.
Right. And I'm just asking questions about those. But that kind of speech isn't allowed.
This conversation falls under that. And I want to make, you made a great point. And this is really important for your audience to understand. in the Islamic law of slander, it says to say anything about Islam, which includes Muslims, the Prophet, Allah, that a Muslim would, and the language is dislike. So it doesn't matter if it's true or not. And this is the key to understanding how, which is what Steve Coughlin and I wrote and briefed about inside the government, going back to 2005 and 6.
Yep.
The term Islamophobia is the tool that imposes the Islamic law of slander on the Western world. It's used as a hammer with, quote, deterrent punishments. And when we see the UN put proposed amendments over the last 10 years to criminalize speech that offends Muslims, and then you see in Europe, they cement it in some cases into law, and they're arresting people, as I said, for free speech out on the street corner, for social media posts, literally police bashing in people's doors because they offended Muslims. And this is happening in the United States under, by the way, I want to say again, under a Trump administration.
And under
the Islamic movement is growing exponentially now. And I want to say one more thing. The Muslim Brotherhood in the United States calls Trump their guy. So I want you to think about that, what that says. And do I think Mr. Trump intentionally wants to be their guy? I do not. I don't. Now, I hope I'm correct. I hope he's not intentionally lying and deceiving us. But I think he believes he's taking a good course of action. But it's a devastating course of action, because when you look at everything that the U.S. government is doing through the lens of our adversary, through the lens of Sharia, Sharia requires jihad to be fought when the Muslims have the resources and the ability to do so. When America does what Mr. Trump is projecting there's only one way to interpret it, through the lens of Sharia. America is surrendering. Victory is at hand. Therefore, we have to fight more brutally and aggressively to kill the Americans, because they're literally, Allah is handing them victory. And it's a capital crime for them not to take it. So do I think Mr. Trump understands that? No, because he has nobody in this administration that understands this. And so here we are. That's why, by the way, that's why the work I do is, 90+% of the work I do is at the local level, training communities, law enforcement, leaders, citizens, whatever, how to identify these networks and get them out of their county, because the state and federal government certainly aren't doing it.
And they don't know how to. So that's the last question I wanted to ask here, is that we, first of all, extremely depressed after this conversation. I know my audience is feeling it too. But we want to feel like we have agency. Now, I'm an activist, so I am tough. I can take it. And I've taken quite the beating from speaking out about this, and people have seen it. So, what can the concerned citizen do? I hear from them every day.
Yeah. So, I've been doing this as long as anyone else in the country. It's been 25 years of doing this.
We just talked. I came to see you speak, and we think it's around 2014 here in North Carolina. So that's when I first became aware of who you were and started following you.
Yeah, because I think when that happened, I was already out of the Department of Defense, if I remember. So working this at the national level, at the state level, the only solution that I think is viable to win the war is by training counties, training citizens, training law enforcement, and then training people how to teach this. And those three programs are my bread and butter and my company's bread and butter, ASIG 2. And, my website's johnguandola.com. You can go there. But the program for citizens is 1 to 2 days, depending on what we need to do. We can do it in 1 day. It's better if it's a little longer. But literally, we train you how to operate as a team, how to find communists and jihadis and their organizations in your network, and how to flush them out of your community lawfully, and how to reestablish a Republican form of government at the county level, which is required under the Constitution. And then we also have the 3-day program for law enforcement, National Guard, those kinds of people. We're the only ones in the country doing this. And what we have found, what I've found, is doing this across the country. When you train, especially when you train 2 or 3 adjacent counties, and they actually understand this, you start taking back parts of your state and eventually your state. And we've had great success in a few states. And we're primarily focused today on Texas and Oklahoma, because Texas is where the real fight is.
Yeah,
but we do, I mean, I travel all over the country. Just in the last week, I've been to 3 different states, and to help not only train people, but to train some leaders and to open their eyes that they need to bring in these training programs. So that's what it's the only recommendation I got. Everything I do, the books I write, the programs I develop, the videos I do, it's just to help people get to understand the threat and therefore realize it is a grave threat. It's an imminent threat. And if we don't deal with it now, I mean, I would say we've already passed the precipice. Now we're at the point, from the enemy's perspective, they're on the downhill slope. And we have to take pretty drastic action. So we're trying to train as many counties as we can, as soon as we can. And we're figuring out the best ways to do that by building out our team and doing whatever we can to do it. But that's the best answer I know of. And I think we can do it. It's going to be a rough fight. And it is a fight because we're in a war. And we have to start treating it like a war, not like it's a political campaign, or like if we just legislate this, we can fix it. Or if we change this policy, everything will be. No. Changing policies and legislating stuff has not won any war in human history. You have to identify and vanquish the enemy. And this is how to do it under the current environment.
So you're saying that that people, let's say I don't even know, I mean, because there's so many, we live in the second largest rural area next to Texas, right? So that's the ideal place for, jihadis to settle, right? And train because there's drone footage of them being by military bases and doing that. So you're saying that you train and equip citizens to vanquish that system from taking over municipalities, government, et cetera?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. We're the only ones doing it. And I want, I'll just share one quick vignette with your audience. About 7 weeks ago, we ran a law enforcement training here in Texas for about 70 law enforcement officers, investigators, constables. We had a couple county council members there, sheriff. And a couple, there were 4 counties represented primarily. And most of them thought, this is really good information, but it doesn't pertain to me, until we got to the 3rd day where we actually do the research and I show them how to research it. And within 30 minutes, we found bad guys operating
vape shops, for
pretty
instance,
aggressively in all 4 jurisdictions. And it was interesting because 2 of the officers that figured it out were 2 of the skeptical officers. And they just looked at me and they're like, well, I guess I was wrong. and I'm like, yeah, but now you know.
Go to a vape shop. They need to go to a vape shop because I've been investigating vape shops.
I've been in not even rural areas, but maybe more rural than, a normal neighborhood. And, law enforcement are like, well, we don't have an Islamic community. And I said, well, let's do this. Why don't you host a training, announce it, and watch who comes out of the woodwork. And they did. And all of a sudden, here come the leaders. Hey, we're from the Islamic Center, the local Islamic Center. He's like, really? I didn't know we had one. Oh, yeah, we meet in the warehouse over there. But anyway, we need you not to do this training because this is Islamophobic and it's offensive to us. And of course, he told him to get the hell out of his office. And we did the training anyway, because there are still some courageous men and women in law enfortment.
Yeah, well, to be clear, people will say, oh, well, it's about targeting, right? Oh, and they'll make the analogy that, wow, if you were doing this against Christians, or if you're doing it against Jews, then everyone will be in an uproar. Well, I'm sure that Ireland did this against Catholics at one point when there was a lot of bombing going back and forth, right? Or against the Irish. I mean, in other words, we have to be honest about what these killers say that they're doing it in the name of. I just rattled off 4 just random examples before we started the show. They're telling us they're doing it in the name of Islam. Are we not to listen? I mean, are we to turn our heads and say, we know what your motive is, etc.? I mean, if people are telling us they're doing it because of something, ought we not be prepared for that or research it? I mean,
absolutely we should. And that's why I do the work I do. That's exactly right.
Because if they start saying we're killing in the name of Jews and Jews are doing it, I'm going to be the first one out there that says something, period, point blank, against it, right?
And the point to be made here is if it were something else, there would be arguments against it. But there's never been not one textbook used in Islamic schools to teach Muslims about Islam and one book of Islamic law that can demonstrate anything Al-Qaeda or ISIS or the Muslim Brotherhood or Hezbollah have done, or Hamas on October 7th have done that's not mainstream Islam. And again, I challenge people, tell me something that was done on October 7th in Israel that violates normative mainstream Islamic law. And you can't. And we can go through it step by step. You can't. That's the problem. And as the Muslims say when they meet and we film them, just because we're not out there in the media telling you this, just because we're not explaining it to you, doesn't mean we don't all believe it. They're obliged to lie to us, but when they teach one another, they have to teach Islam. So if you want to know Islam, don't talk to your friend Muhammad. Go pick up a book for 6th or 7th graders, a textbook, and read it. And what you'll find is, look, if you die in jihad, you automatically go to paradise.
Yes, and you can do that because only 20% of the Muslim population speaks Arabic to begin with. 80% speak whatever language, plus almost always English is a second language. Therefore, you're going to find an overabundance of these books are already in English.
That's right.
For you, if you want to labor over it and learn, you can.
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest Islamic legal languages is English because, a lot of these, massive populated Islamic countries were former British colonies, Pakistan. So, I mean, English is a legal language in Pakistan. And a lot of the stuff's we can get. I've got books of Pakistani Islamic law in English because that's it. It's very clear. If you read Islam, take a deep breath and just read it. It's not complicated. It's very easy.
Right. It's very straightforward. Yes. And so there's no excuse. There's no special permission needed, etc. A lot of times people will post things. Does it mean this? Yes, it does. If you ask former Muslims who are now Christians, those are the most forthright dealers that I know of, because they will tell you exactly. And there's many of them out there who seek them out, and they will tell you straight up, yes, this is exactly what it means. And if you ask somebody that is, bound to lie or motivated to lie, you may not get the full truth. So
that's right.
Well, thank you. You've sufficiently scared the hell out of all of us, which is great because we're going to take the next steps and get trainings. I have people call me literally all the time. Whatever reason, I'm the go-to person for information like this. So, I mean, we're going to have to get you here in North Carolina a lot.
Would love to do it.
All right. Well, thank you.
A lot of my life in there when I was in the Marine Corps. So I'm a big fan of North Carolina.
All right. Well, we'll have to welcome you back. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Okay, great. We're done.
Look at that. Bing,
that
bang,
was good. Yeah, I think that was straightforward. And I mean, everyone's calling me wanting trainers, etc. And I'm, at a loss. So I'm glad to make this connection.
Yeah, cool. Me too. Make sure, let me see for a second. Hold on. Let me pull this up. I've got your, that's your email. So I got that. Mm-hmm. And I can text you my number or I'll email you my number. So if you have, people that want the training, let me know. It's getting tight because, we're getting a lot of requests. Just last week, I was talking to legislators in 5 different states wanting help. And I'm like, I've been to your state. I spent, several years working in your state, and, you should have fixed it.
Well,
Right now.
yeah, I mean, I'm doing a ride along this week for 3 days with the sheriff department in Craven County but they've got a tri-county partnership, but they're busting vape shops and finding all the money's being sent to Yemen. They're putting cot in stuff. They've caught people on the terrorist watch list. And so I did an expose like a month ago and said, oh my God, out of 36 arrests in 2 years, 35 of them were Muslims. Then I talked to the federal prosecutors and they're like, oh yeah. So we have a problem.
Yeah, we do.
So, all right. Well, thank you again. And I will clip this up and have it out here, I think by tomorrow night.
Cool. Thanks, Sloan. Appreciate it.
Bye.